first of all, I've called it falling back in love with nature. Um, Quite frankly, I don't know if you all are noticing during the quarantine that nature has just exploded. I mean, all of my plants are bigger than ever. More bugs are around. In fact, I have one kind of flying in here, so forgive me if you see me swatting. But nature has said, now that you're not around so much, let me please expand. And it's doing so in beauty. So, I mean, that's a major, what do you call it, silver lining of all the other problems that we're having. But I also, just personally, I firmly believe that without nature, we cannot heal. And I do think African Americans were always very connected to nature. I know, that may be one of the reasons why we were imported to work with nature, if you think about it. And I think we sort of fell out of love with it in some ways. And thanks to national parks and greening, Youth Foundation, and many others, quite frankly, Hope Crew, everybody that I know, we have several grantees. I think we're given the opportunity, we're dating in a different way, if you think about it. We now begun to start thinking about, nature, why don't we use it more? Why don't we love it more? It's a partner. And so I just wanted to make sure you all realize that, or I wanted to emphasize how much we at Fun2 Foundation absolutely honor nature and the outdoors as a healing, because of its healing properties. So that I'll start with that.
Nice.
Okay. Linda Wilson, that's me. Fun2 Foundation Executive Director, actually wrote the charter for it without even realizing there was going to be a Fun2 Foundation. So it's interesting that, and I'll just share that I was actually mourning my son. I just lost a son, and I'd gone up into the mountains, and I was like, I just need to be quiet after the funeral and everything. And Mr. Robert F. Smith came to me and he said, just for everyone's knowledge, I'm his aunt, and he said, Auntie, I need help. Can you write a charter for me for a foundation that I want to set up? And I did. And one of the pillars was, of course, falling back in love with nature, in a sense, just so you know. And it's funny because I went up there to grieve, but what I discovered was communing with nature and actually doing something to ensure that we continue to commune with nature was an antidote to my grieving. So it's sort of like kind of born out of a grieving process. And in a sense, I firmly believe that we are grieving nature right now, that, I'm an environmentalist. I was trained by Al Gore. So firmly believe that we've got a crisis on our hand, not just with racism, but with also ignoring nature. So I just wanted to start with, that's where it sort of came from. So next slide. So who the heck are we? Fun2 Foundation is becoming a little more known. I mean, National Park Foundation was actually one of our very first grants. So a lot of you all know, but just so that the students and everybody else knows who we are, I'd like to play a video. So, as I mentioned, one of our pillars is to preserve the environment while promoting the benefits of the outdoors. And quite frankly, I want to right there give a shout out to fly fishing, just because it's a big deal. I know I had never done it until I went up into the Colorado mountains, and just to bask in the energy of earth and sun and wind and water all at the same time, it's just miraculous. In fact, a lot of Black folks, we do fishing, just fishing off the side of the pier sometimes. But fly fishing, Robert has a saying that millionaires play golf and billionaires fly fish. So what we wanted to do is to make sure that as many young Black girls and boys learn how to fly fish early so that they can be prepared when they make that billion. So it's amazing. And quite frankly, I'm forever being called out by him to explain to guests, like he'll have stars up at his ranch and he'll say, Aunt Linda, tell them how much fly fishing is wonderful. And I get to do a whole spiel about it. So it's just a beautiful thing. It's kind of embarrassing here, right? Because I don't catch as many as I could, but it's beautiful. And I have been training youth to learn how to cast, and it's just a whole thing about letting go. And also you put the animals back, so do no harm, right? So it's just beautiful. But next slide.
There the video was. Do you want us to watch it? Is this the right video?
I can't see it.
I'll just go back to the presentation. But the video's on this slide.
It's on this. No, I don't see it.
I'll add the link to the chat.
Pardon?
Just show it.
Okay.
You can show it?
I can. 1 second.
All right, go for it.
There we go.
And I think, a big part of what this retreat is about is that reflection and understanding what is your true power. And you'll be amazed at how if you actually focus yourself on creating and generating your power, how much activity you can actually drive forward, and frankly, how much change you can actually make. It is a very simple message. You are enough. You first have to believe that you are enough to be who you want to be. And you are enough to figure out how to become that. You have to make sure your actions are consistent with it. Make sure your thoughts are consistent with it. If you constantly negate your intention with your thoughts, they will never manifest. And people may say, oh, you're crazy, that ain't gonna happen. But yes, it will. Watch me make it happen. Okay?
Okay. Actually, that's not the right one, but that's okay. I think you get the message.
Very good.
I wish I could get an amen from people, and that is simply, do you see how we're devoted to this? It's just like, that's that. Without it, I don't even think I'd really want to work.
Hey, Linda, one second. Ebony, we just, Ivana put the link to the correct video in the chat on Zoom.
Oh, I don't want to, it's short. But if we can do that. I'm sorry, everybody. This is life in the virtual world.
Exactly. No worries.
That's okay. We gave time for us to have the full frontal or full picture of you, so we have time. We want it.
And I promise I'll speed through it.
Okay.
No need.
Is the correct video up? Can you?
I believe so. We have 1,000, not 1,000, but a whole bunch. So.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure.
All right.
The obligation to build sustainable infrastructures that can help the community. It might be health, it might be education. Those are the dynamics that drive the efforts that I do throughout my life. You want to create these on-ramps for people who are thirsty for knowledge and an opportunity. Yes. Yeah. But we don't want to give just once and then it fades. What we want to do is help enable organizations to create that sustainable flywheel so that as people are uplifted, they think about how they not only give back to that organization, but also pay it forward in other organizations to drive that overall narrative. I think it's important that A, you have to create exposure, B, you're finding talented people where you otherwise may not find them. It is now incumbent upon executives. Our responsibility is to create these on-ramps for others.
I learned how to grow and develop socially, professionally, learning how to navigate those spaces, being able to talk to different senior level executives and create conversation and dialogue.
Part of this opportunity, create the opportunity for folks to be seen, to be, to be viewed and to participate. There's the only place on the planet where that happens, where guys like you and I can reach financial, economic, and philanthropic heights. You can't do that in other parts of the planet.
The name says it all, Restoration Retreat. Want them to sit down, relax, relate, release, as they say, and get to know each other. We're here to build a bond and getting to really know each other and getting to trust each other and feeling like, okay, I got a brother in Oakland, I got a brother in New York, I've got a brother from Milwaukee. That feeling, I can't take this for granted. The opportunity to create wealth has changed. The opportunity to be an entrepreneur has changed. Before, it took massive capital, resources, the right people. Today, it's just, how do you get, access to $50 a month and insights and information? In America, everybody should have that opportunity. Our obligation is to ensure that you provide an opportunity for those coming after you to embrace this opportunity of the American dream. When I look at heroes, that's what heroes do.
All righty. I think you'll see for 5 years, we are very tired because we have been working, and InternX is one of the signature projects that we have, and we're very proud of all that it's been able to do, and thanks to National Park Foundation, it's not just for corporations. Now, what I'd like to do so that we have a little more energy going on is for us to just, as a group, think about how, we talk about it being a healing process, working in the outdoors, going to parks, being involved in sports or whatever. But I actually use an introductory exercise, an icebreaker, so to speak, where I use, I didn't realize I was referring to the outdoors, but I want you to think about, and I'll give you my answers, but if you all could just throw in your chats some of the things that answer this, because as you get to know people, let me tell you, when you work in a team, we are so busy and crazy sometimes, we don't really know who we are at our core. And, day to day, and unfortunately, what's that saying? We fake it till we make it. Well, sometimes we fake it so long, we forgot what we were really trying to do. So getting to know each other is so beautiful and important. And it's a good thing to think about when you're networking, to not just talk about, what do you do? I mean, I really want to know, who are you? Because let me tell you, business people hire folks not just because of skill, but because of trust. And I need to trust you if I can only know you. So these are some questions that come up, and I'll just give you my answers, but if you all could fill in the answers and send it to us, I'd love it. But when are you most comfortable physically? Now, I want you to think about that. I'm going to the outdoors now. I'm also physically comfortable when I'm lying on that couch. I must not lie, with my feet in my husband's hands and begging him to keep rubbing. So, and then I'll nod a little bit. But there's another place is if I'm in a hammock outside with the birds tweeting and everything just quiet. There's that white noise that comes with nature. And so that's when I forget that I have arthritis, if you want to know the truth. I forget that I have problems. That's when I'm physically comfortable. All right, I can't wait to see some of your answers. Oh, look, on a hike in the woods. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Something about that smell, right? When all your senses are engaged, that's when you're reminded that you know, are you. Okay, so let's look at when you're at most at ease emotionally. I'm a great grandmother, and I also now don't have any parents, but even when I did have, for example, my father and my, excuse me, my mother-in-law, I can't rest until I know everybody's safe in the house, you know, at night. Because even my old father, goodness gracious, he went to the casinos, y'all, and we were like, is he home yet? You know, so I worry. Now with quarantine, do we have an added worry? You're darn tootin'. So when are you most at ease emotionally? Think about that. It could be relevant to what you're doing in school. It could be relevant to work. It could be any kind of thing. But if you know what really helps you, I notice you all are doing yoga. We're doing that with the United Negro College Fund, as well as our Restoration Retreat Fellows. And I'll tell you, they are actually doing it with mats and everything online. It is fascinating, and doing the 3-part breathing. And they are writing us and saying the stress is being reduced because of it. So if you're doing it, keep doing it. There's also an app called Shine, started by a Black young lady. And I'm on that every day. I go on and get my message to get me set up for the day. Okay, when do you feel most competent? For me, that's being prepared and having eaten properly, and everything is sort of like all my ducks are in a row so that I'm not going to be worried about things. So think about when you feel most competent. Now, if you're working in the outdoors, preparation is like, you better be prepared. Do you have your mosquito repellent? Do you know, all those kinds of things. You've got to find a way to help yourself. And I don't know about you or what we just went through with trying to get the technology to work. We need to be prepared for that for the rest of our, well, at least the next 2 years. I think we need to be, we've got to get used to this. And in order to feel competent, we need to feel prepared. And if you let things sort of ruffle your feathers, you won't get anything done. So now the reason why I really thought about this being appropriate for this particular presentation is, when are you most alive? And I do think it's when you let nature flow into you. When I was a little girl, I was really blessed to be in a neighborhood that had alleys. Don't laugh, but we had alleys. And I used to ride my bike, and I would literally tie little ribbons or rubber bands so I wouldn't get lost. I think I went for miles through those alleys, but I probably went a few blocks. I was a kid, so you know how that is. But what I did was, I learned every dog in the neighborhood. I know who bit, who was friendly. I knew which neighbors would let me go into their yards and climb their trees. I knew which had the best apples, which had the best peaches. And believe it or not, this is Washington, D.C. We had trees, I mean, in the backyards. I knew who made the best fried chicken, who made the best peach ice cream. And by the time I got home, I wasn't hungry because I'd eaten all day long. But as I think back, it's one of my fondest memories. Even though we used to have garbage cans, y'all, they were horrific, just so you know. But now we're doing compost and we're trying to kind of bring it back. But the point is, to feel the love of human beings, of animals, of the plants, I just felt I was safe. You know, that life was really good. And I really want us to rekindle that in our youth. My feet was in dirt, my hands was in mud, and I felt like a part of Earth, if that makes any sense. And so please keep doing what you're doing, and share that, and remind people just how much nature will help them feel alive, if that makes any sense at all. Now, I won't go into what qualities do you most admire in others. You all can do that on your own, or which ones you admire in yourself. I will tell you the little trick is that the ones you admire in others, other people will tell you that you have them yourself. So that's a little psychological trick that we are amazing. All of us, we're just amazing creatures, and we just have to slow down and, you know, just remind ourselves of what is such a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to share this introduction with you all. It's a great icebreaker, and you can do so much with it. Say you want to plan activities, you will see from when are you most alive, things that people really want to do. And you can plan your outings, you can plan your, you know, activities, and you can even do it with family. You'd be surprised. Not everybody, even in a family, thinks the same. So it's a way to sort of compile ways to do things, like you're having a family reunion and you don't let just grandma decide what's going to happen. You let the whole group tell you what will make them happy. So I can't wait to read the chat. Are we going to be able to get a copy of it? Because I love it. I'm seeing, I admire people who are genuine. Yes, me too. I love them courageous. Because, you know, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and I have to keep talking to a lot of the young folks who are out protesting. And I'll tell you, we need to realize that this is tough. This is, you know, I've been beaten in the head with by billy clubs in the past, and it rings. I wonder if I had migraines from it years ago, but let me tell you that that's courage. And we need to really lift up people and let them know how much we admire all that we are all doing in order to make this a better world. All right, so let's just talk about some of the things we're doing in with National Park Foundation, with good old Fund 2 Foundation together. Next slide. So working together, what we're, you know, you'll notice historic preservation, a big deal. I mean, that's kind of what sparked a grant to National Park Foundation, because when we came into being, it was about to be the 75th, I believe it was, 75th celebration. And what we were worried about is that a lot of donors would give money to the Yellowstones and the Yosemites, but what about all the other things like the Frederick Douglass site, or I mean, they're just thousands of them, quite frankly, many of them small, but it doesn't matter. They're things that mean a lot to us. They're our icons, and we love them, and we want to make sure that they get refurbished and taken seriously as much as possible. Well, of course, that requires project management, and we all need that, we know. And you need money to acquire the sites. And then, of course, there's the digital storytelling, which is now the way of the world. And we need to get good at it, and that makes it more accessible to everybody. And then we are also sharing and getting intern X. And I believe there's a presentation later, so I won't go into too much. I don't want to steal Ivana's thunder. But quite frankly, without internships, we can't have what I call the cradle to greatness. You got to have people going to having experiences that enable them to grow and hone their skill set, as well as practice their need for personality. You know, we all think we're born with a personality, kind of and kind of not. You know, we do develop our character traits, and some of the things we blossom in. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, you talk a lot. You're comfortable." Oh my God, I fainted on a stage one time when I won an award. I was just that nervous because I hated speaking in front of people. Now I don't care what you think. I'm going to do. I'm going to say it. So, but what happened? Practice, right? And internship is practice. That's all it is. It's nothing else. It's practice at what you don't know and practice at honing what you do know. All right, next slide. So, just so you know, on our end, and please, Monica, chime in if you feel any need to. I mean, I'm not a, one shop stop type of person, but you'll see we've had 5 internships and all of them are remote this year. As you all well know, a lot of people, a lot of corporations and other companies, they canceled internships. They also let people go, period. I mean, we're actually bringing people who have graduated needing work, and they'll do an internship. And guess what? Internships is one of your best ways to get hired as a full-time employee. People need to know who you are. So as many of you all know or will learn, is that our platform is completely free. We don't charge the companies, which is very rare, and we don't charge the students even a subscription. Put your stuff in there and we'll help you find something. That's what it's about. And we're very interested in the HBCU program. All right. Next slide.
Also say
Go
something
ahead,
about
Monica.
the learning management system that you have on the
Oh my gosh, I know. I am so proud of that. We put a lot of money into making sure that people have, in a sense, you need basic practice. For example, how to interview with a panel. That's scary. Say you're doing it virtually, you got 6 people asking you questions and you're trying to figure out, you don't even know who they are, right? I mean, with one person, you can kind of read them, or even if you're in their office, you can see what kind of photos they have, or, their handshake. There's something more difficult when you have a panel. So there's practice with that. Also, you're competing with a lot of people, so you've got to stand out. And we already have, racism as a way, even if it's unconscious, that biases people against us. And then we have our own internal racism that we get in our own way and forget how wonderful we are. And as Robert says, you are enough. In fact, I say you're more than enough. You really have to always exude that. But yeah, so we have very basic. We also have some intermediate workshops and courses. And we even have some that are aligned with whatever your career is. In other words, it's career related. There's coding, there's how to crack assessments. I don't know. I went to a school that actually prepared us for tests, and I kind of like them. It's like, I get to show off a little bit. Well, some people panic like the dickens with, tests. And we're having people help each other through the maybe the LCAT or the MCAT or whatever. People, we need each other, but frankly, we don't need anybody but each other. We have everything we need if we would share and stop thinking of it from a scarcity mentality. We have everything. We just need to talk and follow through. Don't be trifling, that's all. But the LMS has everything you could possibly need, and you don't have to pay for it. It's right there. We had to pay for it, but it's amazing. So yes. All right, next slide. All right, so when I talked about the historic preservation, through the grant that we gave to National Park Foundation, they were able to buy the life and birth home of Dr. King. And they are now being restored, and they're fixing it up. It's there is a civil rights, I believe that it's a site down there run by National Park Foundation and National Park Service, and it's beautiful. And so the King family wanted their, artifacts and everything to be shared in that same manner. So we helped that happen. Next. Yeah, I mean, look, Harriet Tubman, hey, what can you say? She didn't make it on that dollar bill, but at least not yet. Let us pray. Maybe that'll change. But I mean, just how can you not think of her as a hero? And anything that she's ever touched needs to be memorialized. So yeah, got to tell a greater story. And of course, digital storytelling is a part of everything that we require in our grants, that you get it out to everybody as much as possible. Next. Frederick Douglass. I swear he's still fine. I'm sorry, y'all. So, that's a handsome man. But we all know that that video that's down at that, I think it's like, what, 50 years old? And so we, thank goodness, are getting actors to redo that, correct, Monica? I believe.
That's right.
As we speak. Yay. His story is just amazing. And so we're working on that site as well as the educational side of it. Next slide. The Hope Crew, that's a part of the program as well, as far as our mandate. And just, you know, one thing that I worry about is that as Black kids who have families that aren't necessarily in the full gamut, have not been allowed, have not had access to all the many careers that are in America, or don't even know about them. They're hidden careers, so to speak. And one of them, to me, is preservation. There's a school in New York that does it, but really, there's not that many. I mean, we are builders. We love, you know, getting our hands on stuff. I have people in a couple hours coming over to talk about building something for me. And, you know, they're just regular people who just love to do that. But it would help if they have training. You and I know that the apprenticeship program that used to be for crafts, it's no longer around in the same way. And it's a shame, because people learn by doing. And being in the shadow of someone that does is how you really learn. I mean, if you were going to shoe horses, you'd have somebody pick the leg up of the horse and show you the kind of, I mean, there's something about letting you try it and being next to someone that knows how to do it, that the magic of learning really happens. And so I just love what Hope Crew and National Park Foundation is doing to make sure that people have their hands on it and get exposed to so many different parts of the STEM continuum, so to speak. All right, next. Nina Simone. How many people have ever heard of Nina Simone? You can raise your hand. I want you to, if nothing else, just get her, I think it's For Women. Oh my God, I love that song. I did get to meet that woman, let me just tell you, and I could barely talk. I was so enamored with her voice, number one, and her passion for the human rights struggle. And look at where she grew up. And you know, if you can think about looking outside of those windows into a world that was really anti-you, and look what she was able to do. It's almost like being in sacred territory. It's holy to be able to touch the things that she touched, and to know that this is someone that made our lives bearable through her music and her love for us. So another, just amazing. And just look at their faces. They're happy, fixing something. I know I am. Although I don't paint so well, they have to repaint after me. But Then there's Alonzo Herndon. Now, you know, he was the first African millionaire in Atlanta. And once again, people who have sort of risen beyond calamities to be able to take care of their stuff is just, it's an honor. Next. Southside Community Arts Center. I mean, look at that architecture. Oh my gosh. Isn't that gorgeous? One of my favorite things is to live in a house or someplace that has that little rounded, curved, where you can sit and look out. And it just feels so much more natural than all those squares and boxes. But look, can you imagine what that's going to look like when it's cleaned? It's going to sparkle. Next. And here's a church, Bethel Baptist Church, one of the most famous churches. You know, I live in a house that's only partially brick, and I crave brick. And just look at all that brick there, just beautiful. And learning how to do that is just amazing. And notice that this was done before we needed masks, so we're learning to use masks in many more ways. You better get used to it, huh? And with the Hope Crew, they wear them just naturally. So bless their hearts. Next.
Linda, can I say something about this? So
Please.
that particular building was the home of Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth.
Mm-hmm.
Responsible for bringing Martin Luther King to Birmingham. And so there was a real reason why they called Birmingham Birmingham. And so at one point, this building was blown up by terrorists in the city of Birmingham, and it was put back together with pieces from the church as well as from the surrounding community. And so the people there got a chance to be a part of that history in restoring those windows.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. That's amazing. Next, yeah. All right, so now, Love Supreme, that's all I can think about. I don't know if anybody knows John Coltrane, but I remember, I love him. He and Pharoah Sanders, I didn't really know John Coltrane's music until after he had died, but I remember the first time someone put headphones on my head and played his vinyl record, and I was transfixed. And I just love his stuff. If you get a chance, and Alice Coltrane stuff. Pharoah Sanders was one of his plays. I mean, I literally did follow Pharoah Sanders up and down the East Coast. I was a groupie because music and outdoors, they go together, right? So to repair that iron fence is just amazing. And look at those kids. I mean, just makes my heart pitter-patter. Oh, somebody meditates to Alice Coltrane. That's for sure. Her stuff is amazing. That's right. Good for you. I love it. All right, next. Tuskegee architecture. Now, I do want to do a little shout out for you all to check out this group called Architecture and Hip Hop. They actually had a free summer program. And once again, architecture, all of that is natural to us. And we sort of fell out of love with things, and we need to refine that love, reconnect that love, and make it a love supreme, so to speak. But okay, so this is Tuskegee. HBCUs are oftentimes not given money to repair their facilities. I can tell you, I've been around a lot of them, and air conditioners don't work, windows are in disrepair, et cetera, et cetera. And look, now with Hope Crew, we can make a difference. We can actually address this completely. And I can barely explain all these things because I'm getting a little overwhelmed, because it is beautiful that we're taking care of ourselves, isn't it? Just look at that, taking care of Tuskegee, as we should. You know, don't tell me you love me. My mother used to say, show me you love me, right? Oh, HBCUI. Well, get in there and plant some stuff, right? Get in there and make sure that the water is clean. Get in there and do something. And darn it, we are doing that through Hope Crew and other things. So. Morgan State, now that's in my backyard, and I'm so glad that they're helping with them too. Morgan State is just growing all over the place. I do worry a little bit that sometimes when people start, growing, that they don't keep their natural roots. So thanks to Hope Crew, this will make sure that the people are involved in design and doing it. Because I went in there and I went there like right before the quarantine, and I didn't even recognize the place. It's growing, and it's a lot different. The energy is different. It's more spread out, and you've got to have somebody that keeps the glue going. So kudos again. And that's it for me. I don't know how much more time we have, or if you have any questions. I haven't been able to look at the chat too much. They've plopped out, but
if I could say something, when you were talking about the Tuskegee hip hop architecture, I actually
not Tuskegee hip hop, but it's.
I mean,
go ahead.
Architecture, yeah. I actually got to sit in for that lesson and seminar, and I got to say it was very powerful and really interesting to see how they work in architecture. My name is actually Kayvon Doody. I'm a double major student at Tuskegee University in architecture and construction science management. So I can definitely relate to a lot of like architecture that I've seen, especially in different styles of how we embrace a lot of culture. Is very powerful, and I've got to actually see how they come up with buildings and structures through music, lyrics, and songs, and different, levels of what they are. So it is pretty powerful to see.
I was, when I think his name is Michael Ford that has that program. I didn't realize that Ice Cube had been an architecture student. So he talks about that, and we are just amazing creatures. We actually had him do a presentation at the Restoration Retreat. Now I feel bad because now I need to get him back again, because we did it for the boys because we had something else for the girls at the same time. But he had them design. I don't know if you know, Kavon, that they have a museum that's being designed, I believe in Chicago, an architecture and hip hop museum. Mm-hmm. And he had them literally come up with ideas. He probably gonna steal them, but the kid, which I don't blame him, but the kids came up with amazing things. And this was only like an hour and a half. We can do it. We just need to have access and someone to sit down and give us hands-on.
Right.
So bless your heart. Please stay in touch, because I want to do more with that. I really do. I think it is something that we were sort of pushed out from. They used to call us jacklegs and everything else, but in actuality, if we didn't have jackleg houses, we wouldn't have a thing. So we need people who know how to do things. All right, anybody else?
Question. Hello, Ms. Wilson. I'm Shatima Bradley. So I know that Fund 2 has been around for some time, but a lot of people probably first heard of Robert Smith and the great works he's done through the media after what was done at Morehouse.
Right.
As an organization, how have you combated all this recent publicity with all that went on with Morehouse, and with and I know a lot of organizations come and how has that been as an organization dealing with that? It
has made me earn my money, let me tell you. Some days I have to write him notes and say, shut up. He is also doing something called 2% solution. People ask me all the time, did you know that he was going to make that announcement at Morehouse? And frankly, I don't think he knew it. I think he was so deeply moved. So if anybody tells you they already knew, they're lying. I'm telling you, he got up in front of those beautiful men and he just got overwhelmed, and that's why he did it. Well, to say you're going to do something and then have to do it properly is more than a notion. And the learning that came out of that, and the biggest piece was that there's a systemic problem with student debt, period. So we actually have set up, we've funded and designed an organization called Student Freedom Initiative to address that. So yes, it's been a journey. We get scammers, we get beggars. I can't tell you, every day I get, please, baby, can I have some money? Kind of letters, you know. My mama needs to come over from Algeria. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you know, and I'm also a old social activist where, you know, I'm touched. That's why I couldn't be a lawyer. I know I'd be broke. I would do everything pro bono. You deep down we've got to figure out how to fix the system and at the same time address individual needs as well. So it's been tough. Yeah, it has been tough. I mean, I look like I'm happy, but I'm cussing behind the scenes all the time because, oh, people cuss you out if you don't give them money. You know, I can't tell you. People can get mean. They want, you know, they want. And then deep down, I hate to say it, I really want to see people think about scaling, but also think about depth. We've been doing this work. I mean, I personally have been doing diversity-related civil rights, human rights work for 50 years. And people keep promising, but you've got to change. We've got to change our the way that we operate. Philanthropy has to change. Pure and simple. You know, look at Hassan Minhaj when he talks about big philanthropy. There's a lot. We've got a lot to do. Yeah, you know, people use it for improper means sometimes. So we've got to be clean about it and be right about it. And we're unapologetically devoted to uplifting the African American experience. That's that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As you know, watching Robert Smith, first of all, I'm just very, thankful and appreciative of this partnership, and just you coming and talking to these young people, because I'm sure they've enjoyed hearing your candor, and we really appreciate that. What advice would you give to some of these? A lot of them are, entrepreneurs and people who are just really wanting to follow in the path that Robert Smith has, his trail that he's kind of trekked. What advice would you give to them in terms of, it seems that, and if you look at Bill Gates and a lot of these other folks, they focus on their whatever their craft, their trade, their expertise is, they grow it. And then there's this philanthropic side of it. Right. So, that's a question that I'm often asked from young students, like, do you make the millions, or in his case, billion first, and then focus on giving back? Can you do it concurrently? What has been your experience, and what have you seen that might be helpful for some of these young, brilliant minds here?
Oh boy. Okay. Truth of the matter is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, capitalist, pure and simple in America's world, without the new socially minded capitalism that people are attempting, and I say attempting because there's a little oxymoron going on there. Be aware, and Robert and I talk about this on a more personal level. There is a cost when you are when you have your focus on making money, there's a cost. That's my opinion. Now, your generation is probably, or the younger generation is really grappling with that, because I see them trying to be more socially conscious, infused through everything. So in one way I'm saying, how the hell do I know? We couldn't do it. And another thing I would say, that you have to go into yourself and figure out your values. I never wanted to be a billionaire. I just didn't. And I understand, that many of your students will want to be. I really don't care about it. I like to spend money, I'm not gonna lie. But when it comes down to all that financial shenanigans, that stuff is all day. You don't have time to deal with your family sometimes. I remember even in the human rights struggle, I had to write a little note on my mirror saying that if I concentrate on one thing, I have to neglect another. I had to do that because I was a widow. I was in the Black Panther Party movement, Black Panther Party earlier, and my first husband was murdered. And I say all that to say that baby needs shoes. I still needed to make sure that when I came out of the Panther Party, that my kids ate with all my wonderful high ideals to balance social activism. Talk to the King family, talk to the Malcolm X family. The parents that they lose, it devastates them. And you can not just lose them from doing, from being assassinated, you can lose them from their attention. They're so busy doing other things. So yes, I will say that if you really want to get the billions, you're just gonna have to go full speed ahead. You might get lucky and do an app and make a lot of money. But let me tell you, philanthropy to me, and I'm also an ordained interfaith minister. So there's a piece of me that says you give a piece of what you have no matter what. So all along, I've always tried to give. I'm giving now. I got a bunch of people in my house. So to me, so I know I'm like rambling a little bit about it, because that is what has to come from you. If you want to be a Robert, you need to hear his whole story. Think about what he had to go through, at Goldman Sachs as a chemical engineer doing patents that he doesn't get to completely benefit from, right? There's all of that. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, let me tell you right now, that's a lot of work. A lot of work. I'm watching, I won't mention, but we had somebody who was kind of doing that, and he just had a nervous breakdown because he was also trying to get married and had then he had custody. In other words, be aware of all the things that are in your life. And make sure you know what you're doing. And secondly, I just have to say this because I'm actually dealing with I'm trying to build a fence. And this guy's, I always try to buy black, right? Well,
yep.
That can be kind of hard sometimes, because the reality of us is that we don't have the resources historically. So I call him, and he doesn't have anybody but himself to answer the questions. Does that make sense? Because he can't afford to to pay for somebody to be an assistant. So he's annoying the hell out of me right now. Sorry, y'all. But but my point is, I'm telling my husband, why don't you get somebody to answer the phone? So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to be poor for a little while. Is that clear? People don't realize when I had to walk up the steps to Robert's walk up when he first got married and had his first little babies coming, he didn't start off rich. So don't think you're like doing like Endora, you blink and all the money's there. No, he had to he had to pinch pennies. He had his mother saying, I helped him because I gave him a loan, when he was 30 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? My point is, Be aware of what you're doing. Be completely aware of what you're doing. If you're going to commit to that, then commit. But do not think you can do it by yourself, you all. Get some help. Pay them a little bit. Get an intern, intern X. We need, and I'm sorry, Shatiba, you really pressed the button because it's something that I grapple with all day. I want to do something myself personally, and I'm like, oh, can I add another thing on the, on my shoulders, period, or if you want to think about a weight. Can I add another whole thing of trying to write up this and go get permits for that and get blah, blah. There's a lot to this stuff. Ask for help, but do what you can do yourself so that you don't wear the person out and they don't want to help you anymore.
Absolutely. That's such good advice, Linda.
All right, I'll shut up for now.
No, we love to hear your voice. I mean, it's real. I think these conversations are so poignant for the interns to hear. And I know they love it too.
I hope so.
I wanna say, do we have any more questions? We have time for one more, I think.
I have a question.
Or I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe two more. Let me see. Go ahead, Nivani.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nivani Flowers. I attend Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. I heard you speak about the Hope Crew and how y'all travel like to different schools and just different historic areas. So how do you guys go about like picking which areas y'all want to renovate and stuff like that?
That's not I can't answer that question. We leave that up to the Hope Crew. And I know Monica's on Monica, you want to deal with that?
Yeah, so about almost 6 years ago, I helped create that program, the Hope Crew program. And that program sits with the National Trust for Historic Preservation now. And I'm at the National Park Foundation. I kind of left my baby behind, but to your question, so the way that they determine where the projects are, it follows the money. I mean, to think about these, like, yeah, we're doing good. Yeah, it's engaging young people and teaching them a skill. But the finding the dollars to make the project happen is the name of the game. And so they look for projects that have funding attached to them. So all of those projects were a part of the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. And it had some dollars attached to it. So we leveraged those dollars with Fund 2 money to pay those young people to learn historic preservation skills.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, that was fast.
Will that program be continued?
It's still going. They just identified some new leadership there. But if you'd like to connect with them, Shatiba and Ebony have my contact information, so they can put us in contact, and I can make sure that you connect with the right person at the National Trust.
Fantastic. Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
Malik, was yours a quick question?
Yeah, it was actually similar to the question I was going to ask. Were there plans to extend the Hope Crew to other cities and communities? And you kind of answered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a program. Question?
Go ahead, Angela.
I was just going to ask, is there one more question?
I see a guy has his hand up. A guy, do you want to speak?
That was an accident. I didn't mean to raise my hand, but I will say it's just incredibly refreshing, this dialogue. Ms. Wilson, I appreciate, I privately chatted to Angela. I feel like I'm talking to my mom. I feel like I'm getting personal wisdom from my mom. So it's just a wonderful, intimate way to be able to see knowledge translated and experience translated. And so, on behalf of Green Youth, we really thank you for being part of this forum and for sharing in such a way that is with the filter off. I love that you are able to be fully expressed. In fact, Angela and I just had this conversation just about how to show up, be who you are, and let the world embrace who you are, and then show other people that you can be fully expressed as well. So love what you're doing. Thank you for your participation in this forum.
I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, as much as I really want to work on all the things around, and I will invite you all to come to a thing we're going to do with Ibram Kendi on anti-racism. But I also know that having been in the Black Panther Party, having been a SNCC, having been, you know, like throughout whatever, knowing yourself is so important for leadership. Knowing you got to work on yourself. And I know that kind of goes back to that earlier question that if you don't know yourself, you'll never be satisfied. I'm thinking of Hamilton. I don't know if you all are listening to that. So you got to be satisfied. But yeah, I hate, and I don't use that word often, but I hate the fact that we've had to keep masks on for so many centuries that we don't even know ourselves. If I ache that my father died with only maybe 10 years of self-awareness, that he really was able to finally say, here I really am. I didn't want to be an accountant, I wanted to be a dancer, but I couldn't be, which is one of the reasons why we started the Student Freedom Initiative. Because freedom is about being you're exactly right. It's expressing yourself.
We wear the mask.
Exactly. And that mask is like metal and has spikes on the inside of it.
Oh, it's so tiring.
It's wearying. It's exhausting. Exactly. And I can tell you, the outdoors is the antidote.
Yeah.
It truly is. Outdoors and interacting with nature and letting nature flow into you. And human beings are part of nature, and seeing it as not being above nature, but as a part of nature.
It's healing. It really is healing.
Well, look, tell folks, email us. I mean, one good thing about the quarantine is I'm not traveling all over, and I can actually answer some things sometimes. So,
yay!
Yeah. So I'm here.
Linda, this is George McDonald. I want to thank you also for the enormous support that Fund 2 has provided to the National Park Service and also to our youth programs. And I want to reemphasize that I think it is a really a unique opportunity for us to become very intentional over these next few years as we connect what our mission is to the National Park Service and connecting to the uprisings, connecting to this movement that's taking place every day on the streets of our country. And also connecting Black people, people of color to nature and the environment, because we're going to have to be in some real parallels in order to survive as we move forward as a civilization. So thank you.
Thank you. All righty.